Hey, YouTube believers. Chris Matt coming at you today with Classic X-Men number 3. And I love this cover. It's a beautiful piece by Arthur Adams. I don't know, from this time period, there's a lot of comics that did this. I don't know if it was just because of the Marvel 25th anniversary, but anytime I see these covers, I get excited because I think they're really beautiful. Now, for the book itself, it's in actuality a reprint of X-Men 95 from October 1975. The print date on this is November 1986, but I figure we're in October. Why not go over an October printed book? And what I like about this, well, before we even get into Warhunt, which is the reprint of 95, let's go ahead and talk about who made this book. This is Chris Claremont writing, and there was Claremont plotting pages 1 through 32, and then Len Wein doing 1 through 21. Pencilers, Dave Cockrum, John Bolton. Inkers, Sam Granger, John Bolton. Letters, Karen Montillo and Bill Oakley. Tom Orzanowski. Colors, Elaine Lee, Glynis Oliver. And then the editor was Ann Nasanti, Jim Shooter, Terry Cavanci, Arthur Adams, and John Bolton. So this was an all-star team on this book. So that's exciting. So now, let's jump into Warhunt. Now this part is the reprint of 95, and I love how, because at this point, this was the second issue where Claremont had taken over from X-Men because, they stopped doing the reprints from the Stan Lee days, and then Len Wein did Giant Size X-Men number 1, which I wish I could still get a hold of, and then Claremont took over at issue 94, and here's where this is like the first real mission of all the new X-Men, and I like how boom, you open the page, stakes are happening, they're falling mid-sky, which this is the cliffhanger from 94. And what I like here is how Claremont draws you, and he goes, these are the new X-Men. And soon they will all be dead. So you're just kind of, ooh, think about this back in the day. Like now, it's kind of a cliche, a trope. But back then, comics, this type of comic storytelling was still kind of new, so you're just like, oh man, what's going to happen here? And the villain thereafter is Count Nefaria. He took over the Valhalla base, which is kind of like the main nuclear stockpile for the United States, and he's ransoming the government, or else he's going to detonate all the warheads. And he has his goons, which are the Animen, which I'm glad they've never really come back around, because they look kind of bad. Like this one here. He reminds me of a roided up version of what's her name? Princess something from BoJack Horseman. But anyway, they're talking about how they have the base locked down and how they can take down the X-Men, the Avengers. The Fire is telling them, hey, we have this base, the security systems here can take out the Avengers. Nobody. So you can see he's starting to get a little cocky. And then we cut back to the X-Men mid-fall, which you'd think, falling at that velocity, you wouldn't be able to hear each other. But, comics. And so what I like is how Scott is just, instead of flailing in terror, he makes snap judgments. And he's talking about how Storm and Banshee need to grab the people that can't fly. He's asking Kurt if he can teleport people. And here, this is something I'm wondering if it got retconned, because Nightcrawler says, I can teleport, yes. But if I teleport from this height, the law of conservation of energy demands I materialize at the same velocity I started with. I will be killed, regardless. Now, this is the first and only time I've ever heard Kurt say this. Now, I know about the whole, needing to be able to see where he's going, but that's kind of new on me. So if that's been retconned, let me know down in the comments. But I thought that was kind of interesting that, instead of making their escape easy, Claremont continued to raise the stakes right here. And what I like is how Colossus says, don't worry about me, I'll get down on my own. And he's just like, whatever. Colossus is the first to land, if one could truly call this a landing. And just that's great. And so what's cool is, okay, Scott's made a plan. He's not gonna, he's not gonna freak out. He's gonna be cool and calm and collected about this. but he's the last one to be saved. And what I like is he actually starts to think, and I like how Claremont actually starts to give you like a ticking clock, 12 seconds, 5 seconds. He says, look, like this is it, Summers, and you actually see the old fearless leader sweat a little bit. Now, I don't want to give away everything there, but here, I believe, is the very first time where Kurt says, Cyclops is telling him to teleport into the base. He says, I cannot teleport anywhere. I cannot see or visualize in my mind's eye. Jaunting blind is virtually suicide. There's too great a chance of me materializing within a solid object. So I think issue 95 was the first time Kurt ever referenced that. Now, something's really cool that requires teamwork in a really creative way that allows Kurt to get in. And I don't want to give it away. But just seeing Kurt on his own for the first time beat the crud out of one of these Animen, it's great stuff all around. And because Kurt's able to get in, he's able to release the hatch, letting the X-Men come in. And I love how it says, if the X-Men let that moment happen, the Air Force designed this complex to survive anything. Nuclear war, biological holocaust, even a meteor strike. Trouble is, they never expected the X-Men. And for this time, just think about how dynamic this panel is. There's no 3D models, there's no Photoshop. This is ink, pencil, and coloring. So for this time, 1975, that is absolutely gorgeous. Now check this out. This is something that I wanted to reference. There's one of these Animen that can use their powers to manipulate people's minds. And so she has the whole U.S. troop under her command, and they go to attack the X-Men. And Cyclops is saying, they're not responsible for their actions. We can't kill them. And so Storm says, very well. If you do not wish these soldiers hurt, they will not be hurt. But they will be stopped. Now, in a couple of my past reviews, I've talked about how Claremont can be wordy, but it means something. Listen to this. It's going to be a little bit of a read, but I want to make a point here. Raw energy crackles in the still air. Lightning flaring bright around them as wind springs up from nowhere. And with the wind, a sound never before heard within the safe, secure confines of Valhalla's base. The sound of running water. It gathers the soldiers up like a living thing, gently sweeping them down the long corridors until they are no longer a threat to the X-Men. And then it sets them down and fades away as quickly, as quietly as it had come. Now this is what people were talking about, how Claremont could be wordy. But it enhances, it either A, enhances the story, or B, expounds upon things and means something in an impactful way. A lot of modern comics now, for example, the Harley Quinn 67 that we just recently went over, all that needless dialogue that led nowhere. Or other modern X-Men books where they'd be like, oh, look at Wolverine. He's so cranky. He's just going to go jump on them because he's a grumpy head. So a lot of this like modern day LOL so random in books, it doesn't add to the story. It doesn't enhance it. It doesn't give it an emotional resonating feel. Between the art team and Claremont's words, look at how impactful 1, 2, 3, 4 panels were to expound, to elaborate and exacerbate Storm's power like that, and to show that she is a force to be reckoned with. This is why I miss old comics. Now, Thunderbird, this is the first Thunderbird, John Proudstar. His brother, Jimmy Proudstar, which is the modern Warpath, which I love him just as much. This one like when he's first introduced for these first 3 issues, Giant Size 94 and 95, he bucks everybody. Like, he keeps calling Cyclops One Eye, and Cyclops is like, it's Cyclops to you, mister. We're a team. And nonetheless, he just keeps bucking. And I like how Claremont gives us these thought balloons where he goes, lost my temper. Too easy. It happens too often. I hate being bossed. So why am I in a team? Psych was right about the Canuck. I knew it. And still, I bucked him. Because John's saying, hey, I could track these guys. And he's like, Wolverine's been around the block. And he's also was stationed at Valhalla Base when he was with the Canadian military. He's like, I want to contribute, to be needed. My being here, being alive should count for something. But how? There's nothing I can do. One of the others can't do better. Nothing. So you see this conflict within Thunderbird here where he wants to help, he wants to reach out, but then there's that ego part of him where he's like, I can do better. So you see this internal conflict. So it feels a little bit like a melodrama, but it fleshes the characters out so they're not flat, one-dimensional, interchangeable characters. Each one has their own enriched, standout attributes. And with that, we get into some really great action. Wolverine goes down, but this is where you kind of start to see the team for the first time come together, because this is essentially their second mission, because Krakoa was their first, 94 was kind of a cool-down training issue, and 95 was their second one, and you can start to see them working together. Wolverine's down, this guy's going to take him out, and Colossus just flings him. Cyclops takes out this Toadman that wants to take down Nightcrawler. A bird grabs Cyclops, Nightcrawler returns the favor by teleporting above it and landing on him. So you're starting to see this team, even though they're older and set in their ways compared to the first wave, they're learning to overcome those adversities. And then we get more, like drama and suspense, because Nefaria has set this self-destruct button. And he tries to escape. But Banshee and Thunderbird, get in the way. And they try to take him down, and Banshee's pleading. He goes, Thunderbird, get off the plane. I can use my sonic scream, but I need you to move. So now while Cyclops is trying to disengage this self-destruct thing, Professor X, because a lot of times this is how he would appear back in the day, he'd say, go, help your teammates. One of them is in immortal danger. And now I'm sure a lot of us have heard references to X-Men 95 and what happens with Thunderbird. I don't want to spoil the panels. I do, however, want to add this. Because it goes, the scenario ends as it began, with the breaking of Charles Xavier's heart and the twisting of his soul. For in the end, he could not desert his pupil. And all John Proudstar felt, Charles Xavier felt as well. With only one difference, Charles Xavier is still alive. Ooh, that gives you chills. Now as they stand over the wreckage, Cyclops goes, I suppose it had to happen sometime. Heck, sooner or later it happens to all of us in this business. It comes with the uniform. And I think things like that is kind of like where you start to hear the running gag through all the decades now, where they'll say, welcome to the X-Men, hope you survive the experience, because of things like this, or things that like happened to Jean Grey during the Dark Phoenix saga. Now, you're asking yourself, wait a minute, why is this artwork all of a sudden changed? This is what I like about the classic X-Men books, is yes, they reprinted Claremont's run, but you went back and they added backup stories. So like, for example, the Dark Phoenix saga, when they reprinted, what was it? X-Men 100, when Jean was supposed to have died bringing the shuttle back into the Hudson Bay. There's a backstory of how she survived, which is cool. I can't remember what number that is off the top of my head. This one is the backstory with the funeral for John Proudstar. And I love the change because the art style here very much enhances what they're feeling and whatnot, because this, like it says, it's called mourning. So with that said, the faintest hint of a breeze disturbs the morning air, but not a sound, it's silence. The solitude fits his mood. His name is Charles Xavier. He is a teacher. He has come to this remote and desolately beautiful corner of New Mexico to bury one of his students. So, New Mexico represent, woot woot, but tragic story nonetheless. And you see he's just deep in thought. Because up to this point, none of his students had really died. I mean, the shape changer, what was his name? It wasn't Morph. Chameleon, I think. He died, but he wasn't really a full-fledged X-Men member like his original 5. And so again, I like how his features are shadowed to reflect his mood. How naive of me. How foolish. To think I could send the X-Men into battle after battle against the most hopeless of odds and have them always emerge unscathed. Such mad luck could not last forever. And John Proudstar was the first to fall. I hardly knew him. Now, what I like here is this is like the loss of one of his first students. Because this was before the Dark Phoenix saga, anything. And the way he's just reflective here is very much a stark contrast to how he is in Claremont Lee's X-Men #1 from the 90s. Because he's like, I can't believe how much has happened over the years. And he's talking about the people he lost, like Doug Ramsey, Jean, Thunderbird, etc., so forth. So check out that review to kind of see the stark contrast that I'm talking about here. And I think what really helps with this book is just not the lack's a bad word, but the way that they don't add as much detail. It's purposefully done, and it really reflects the mood of this story. Now, they've come to New Mexico, as we just said, to bury Thunderbird, and the Proudstars here are saying, please leave, even though Thunderbird's body has mysteriously disappeared. Well, the X-Men think that something, shenanigans have ensued. So the X-Men go to, they have Wolverine set off to go find them, so they're all tracking. And while this is happening, everyone reflects their interactions with Thunderbird. So what I like here is how it kind of fleshes out the character even more. Because I kind of felt, when I originally read 95, I was like, I wish we could have seen more of him, to see more of him as a person. So I appreciate that Claremont went back and did it. He had interactions with Nightcrawler and Colossus, Storm. And you could just tell he was a very tragic man, because Aurora was saying, of your native land, John, what was it like? Nothing special. I couldn't wait to leave, and missed it with all my heart the moment I did. Have you families there? And friends? Family? Sure. Friends? I left them in the jungle. Loved ones? A girl to cherish, Aurora? Kids to raise? Never. Look at these deep shadows the art team adds. Just the pain. And then, of course, the negative space in the background of just the white. Just that kind of gives that very melodramatic self-inflection, just nothing. Now the story, it hit me hard. And then what I like too is how Claremont builds up. I can't remember what issue it is where Jimmy here invades the X-Men for revenge on Thunderbird. So I like that we kind of get more of a flesh out of why his brother comes to invade him other than obvious reasons. It just really gives you that emotional resonance that you need for character development. So real quick, Dias. This is the original cover of 95. Beautiful cover. And then we get this beautiful back cover, and I like how it reflects what the book is about on the backside. Jimmy hurting for the loss of his brother. The X-Men, in a sense, kind of doing their own walkabout in the New Mexico desert, doing their own self-inflection. So yeah, guys, this was a wonderful, wonderful story. If you've enjoyed it, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified and come to the channel. And we love to hear your feedback and just, chat with y'all down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.